You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Super stoked to have you here. It's going to be a good time. Talking with Mark was a true blast. And, we'll not waste too much time. We'll get right into it. But before we do that, I just want to remind you about the Facebook group. So actually, Mark joined the Facebook group while we were recording the podcast. So that was kind of a fun thing. So if you are not part of it, check out The Tone Mob on Facebook. I know we're all kind of shut in and looking for something to do. That is a good way to, pass the time. We're nerding out in there. We're talking about pizza. I'm about to share my wife's pizza sauce recipe, which is super good. Lynn makes an amazing pizza sauce. It's so delicious. And who knows what else can pop up in there. We talk about anything that comes up on the show. So it could be all kinds of weirdness. So check out The Tone Mob on Facebook. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into this episode with Mark Lettieri. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and today I'm here with Mark Lettieri. Did I say that right? Usually I ask first. Oh, yes, good.
No, right. Nailed it. Nice work.
Awesome. Usually I ask that beforehand, but I've been getting in a bad habit of not when I'm not sure. So,
yeah, all good.
Oh, well. So we're just podcasting in quarantine land, and I don't know. For me, this isn't all that different from my normal day to day, other than the, the general kind of doom and gloom that everyone's experiencing. But as far as how I operate, it's basically the same. So
well, there you go. Well, then you're used to it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
How about you? You're not used to it, though.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I think what's odd about this particular season is that usually in the springtime, myself and the musicians that I kind of roll with, we're usually on tour.
Right, exactly.
Spring is just kind of the season when the industry is alive and there's lots of shows and events and things like that. And so I was supposed to be on a 3-week tour with Snarky Puppy that actually was going to start yesterday. But was obviously postponed. And then I had actually everything on my calendar from really the beginning of March to about mid-May is gone.
Yeah. So, I can imagine.
So it's an odd thing to experience, because when you're used to having things on your calendar that you kind of puts you in kind of a mental space that you're how should I say, you're just ready for it to happen. It's you're comfortable with what's going on. You've planned out. You're like, I know I'm going to be in this place at this time and that place at that time, and you can kind of build everything else around that. But with this whole completely open canvas of a calendar, you find yourself sitting and going, well, there's all these things I should be doing and could be doing and want to be doing, and I just have no idea which one to do. So you just are like paralyzed and don't do anything. And I think that's kind of what I've been talking to a lot of my friends, and we're all sort of experiencing the same thing. So it's kind of like, well, maybe we just shouldn't do anything for a minute. Maybe because we're doing so much all the time that, like, maybe a little bit of kind of reflection is maybe good, I guess, in a sense. But I'm starting to kind of figure it out and kind of get things back together and prioritize what needs to be done. And, of course I'm spending a lot more time obviously with my family because I'm physically here, home to
Right.
do it. So, which has been really fun. My daughter and I did science today, and then we did music. So we're kind of doing little school projects and things like that, which has been pretty cool.
That's cool.
But yeah, I'm like slowly kind of building a schedule. I have a lot of creative things that would like to get done that I'm going to work on, as far as writing songs and things like that. So yeah, we're all just kind of figuring it out, slowing it down and really taking it one day at a time, because I can't really plan too much because I don't know what's going to happen,
Right. Right.
Which is weird. That's an odd feeling.
It is weird. It's weird because like I'm a bit of a planner. I try to think I know what I'm going to do in the next month or two. And obviously with scheduling the podcast, I kind of have to, but it is nice to kind of just like, well, we're just going to worry about today. Cause honestly, I've been stressing out about it, just like everyone has, because, there's things like, my clients are all, pedal builders and things. And if they're not allowed to work, then why are they paying me? So
sure.
It's kind of like stressful in that sense, but it's also just like, I kind of try to tell myself, just don't worry about it. Like there's literally nothing you can do about it. So if something happens, react, but try not to overreact, I guess.
Sure.
It's a strange time for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, there hasn't been anything like this in my lifetime, certainly not anything that was old enough to remember, but I can't imagine that there was anything like this. I mean, I guess there was SARS and some of the H1N1, and which were all pretty scary, but it didn't seem like it affected the immediate United States potentially as much as what's going on right now. So it's history, man,
Yeah. The only things we can really look at are, like 1918 and some of that stuff, but it's like, you're right.
Sure.
Yeah. SARS and H1N1, it was like, I mean, as far as how it affected me precisely zero. Nobody I knew got sick.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Me too. Sure.
I knew of people, who, but like, I didn't know anyone, and it didn't affect my job. It didn't affect anything. So this is quite unprecedented, I think, but I'm pretty confident in humanity, and our ability to survive.
Well, that makes one of us. No,
well,
just kidding.
We've survived this long.
I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. We will adapt and overcome.
That's right. So for my audience who may not be familiar with you, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of the podcast, which is not coronavirus related. It is supposedly guitar related, but I'd like to know your story. I know about you as a player. I've watched you play several times at NAMM and NAMM related events, and I've watched your band play on the YouTubes and all that stuff. But some of my listeners, we're a lot of punk rockers over here, so they may not be familiar with you. Yeah, that's kind of my background.
Right on.
So let's dive into your whole backstory. When did you start playing, and how did you get to where you're at today?
Sure, man. Well, I guess there was maybe a little bit of punk rock in my upbringing, kind of maybe filtered through grunge music. I think maybe a little bit more immediate than actual punk, but I started playing when I was 11, 12 years old. This was in the 90s when that kind of music was really popular, Nirvana and Soundgarden and Smashing Pumpkins and Sublime and all these 90s bands. Those were kind of the bands that my friends and I would listen to, and we'd cover their tunes in our garages, and play at backyard parties and school dances and things like that, but I got really passionate about the instrument very quickly. I mean, it was never really just a hobby. It was pretty much something that was all consuming of a lot of my free time, at least. For me, it was music and sports. and school was like, part of it. But it was just kind of the thing that I knew I had to like get through and do well at so I could get it out of the way,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, as most of us are, but anyway, so I got really serious about the instrument, and that kind of led me to, studying all the guitar greats, Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen, and some of the kind of 80s guys, like, well, Eddie was an 80s guy kind of, but, Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and Eric Johnson and, those types of instrumentalists. And I got into jazz a little bit, and R&B and funk and soul and gospel music as I got a little older. And somewhere around the end of college, just decided that I was going to make a go at this and make it a job. I had started kind of studying players who were session musicians, guys that were just playing on records, and so that became a kind of a big focus of how I thought I could make a living doing this. So it was never about just being in a band that, maybe was going to be successful, because I wanted to keep the finances coming in. And I figured, well, if I can play as many kinds of music with as many types of artists as possible, like, I'll always find a way to stay working, so that became a bit of a focus, just trying to get some versatility under my belt, and it paid off. I think I found myself doing a lot of different kinds of work. And then I think all that studying of different styles sort of informed my own sound, which is what I do when I make my own records and produce my own records and tour under my own name. I write instrumental guitar-based music that involves quite a lot of different influences, but I try to do it in a way that, the focus is more or less singular, in that it still kind of sounds like, hopefully, me,
Right.
Rather than like putting out a record where it's like, and here's the country song, and here's the funky song, and here's the rock song, and here's, I try to make it all feel like one kind of sound or vibe, but yeah, so my career now kind of consists of focusing on my solo music, and then I still play with this band Snarky Puppy that maybe you've heard of. Sometimes it's like a jazz fusion. It's a big band. There's a lot of us.
Yeah, I was trying to explain it to somebody. I was hoping you could explain what it's a very good band, but like the style, I'm not.
Thanks.
I'm like,
yeah, I mean, it's like you could commercially call it jazz, but it's really only jazz in the sense that maybe there's obviously a large instrumental component to it, and the rhythms and the harmony are not stuff you would necessarily hear on pop radio.
Right. Okay.
But other than that, there's a large influence of all kinds of styles and music. There's funk in it. There's R&B. There's a lot of world music influences. Trying to think of like how to describe it to maybe, well, I guess that's probably how I would describe it.
All right.
I guess for those of you that are like, Snarky Puppy, what the hell is that? Just Google it. You could go watch it on YouTube. We have a lot of content on YouTube of live studio recordings and shows and all this different kinds of stuff. There is a industrial metal band from Canada called Skinny Puppy that maybe you've heard of.
I have heard of them before. And I got confused the first time.
Apparently they I know. And there's a really funny tweet, I guess, from the guy in that band who was like, what is this Snarky Puppy? You guys couldn't have found a better name. And I was like, I didn't come up with the name. But anyway, there's plenty of room for different kinds of puppy music.
That's right.
On the planet.
We got all kinds of different. I'd rather have a snarky puppy than a skinny puppy. No one wants a skinny puppy.
Well, who knows? Yeah, right. Or an obese puppy. I have no idea. Whatever.
An obese puppy. That's my next band, is Obese Puppy. Well,
perfect. I think you should do it.
I mean, might as well. There's plenty of room for, whatever. I don't know. That is funny.
Yeah.
But how did that band start? Were you part of that, or how did that come to be?
Well, I joined. Well, the band's been around technically since 2005. four rather, 2004. And I joined kind of in around 2008, 2009. They were like a college band that a bunch of the guys went to a university together. And the bass player started the group as sort of like just a fun project, and then it kind of became this thing. And here in Dallas Fort Worth area where I live, it has a pretty vibrant R&B and soul and gospel scene here, and a lot of the musicians who were in the early incarnation of Snarky Puppy were kind of getting into that scene here, and so was I, just from a different part of town. And so that's kind of how we met. And that's essentially how I just joined the band. I mean, it's like, I think what happened was there was a series of gigs where the band leader couldn't find a guitar player. And so he called me to do it. and that's how it happened. It's how you get in the band. Wasn't really like an audition or anything. He just sent me the CDs and I'd learned the music and showed up and hopefully didn't suck too bad. So that was that, and, we've been going on now since 2004. So 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And, and it's kind of the same way as how I got into the fold is how a lot of the players got into the fold. We just had more gigs than we had people to do them. And so, so the band just sort of grew. And Michael, the bass player who started the band, if he called someone to sub and he liked their playing and they fit well with the band, then they kind of became part of the band. So that's why we have so many people on each instrument. Actually, if you go on our Wikipedia page, it's like a roster, almost like a baseball team or something.
How many members are in the band?
We don't perform with. There's about 17 of us, so it's like a lot. But we don't perform with 17 people on stage. We perform with like 9.
Only
8 or
only
9.
9.
Which, well, I mean, if you think about it, for any band that has percussion and a horn section, you're going to end up with close to that number anyway.
This is true.
So it seems bigger than maybe it actually. I mean, if a lot of these, hell, Steely Dan has 9 people on stage. Mm-hmm. A lot of those big touring pop acts will have that many people on stage. Heck, they'll have more because they have dancers.
This is true.
So yeah, I mean, but if we were showing up with 17 people and trying to cram all that on stage, that'd be pretty interesting. But we do record with that many amount of people, which is pretty fun and challenging, but cool.
That's got to be logistically kind of interesting. You got to have just the right studio to fit everybody in there.
It's generally a big room. Yeah, the last 2 records we did at this place in El Paso, Texas, called Sonic Ranch.
I've heard of it. Yeah,
which is really beautiful recording. It's kind of like a recording complex. Like they have a couple studios there, and you can live there. They have little rooms, little kind of haciendas, little Spanish style houses that you can live in, and then this big live room with a Neve console that you can fit several people in there. So we all just cram in there and get it done.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I popped and I didn't do it. I didn't do this. I always ask, or excuse me, I'm stumbling all over myself right now. I always forget to ask members of my Facebook group for questions in enough time to actually get a bunch of questions. So I dropped it right on them right before we started recording. So, but right. I do have a couple good ones that have came in since then. So
all right. Bring it on.
So I'm not sure what he's talking about here. I imagine there's a story here. But do you know Scott Gaylor? He says, ask him about King's X and the time he used my Waza rig. So I'm not sure what he's referring to, but he told me to ask you about that.
I do know Scott, and I do love King's X. I'm trying to think. It may have been at the NAMM show.
He left a smiley or a laughing face, so I'm assuming he remembers something.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was at the NAMM. Wait a minute. It was like the Woz is an amp, right? Right.
I don't know what he's
Boss
talking
makes
about.
A lot of things called
that's a lot of different
okay.
Boss things. So
this is a terrible answer.
I feel like I put you on the spot. Last time somebody asked a what I assume to be an inside joke, it went exactly like this. So don't feel too bad.
Okay, no. I'm going to make this so it's not silly. I think it was at a NAMM show a few years back where I was playing with Tomo Fujita, this really great funk blues player at the Boss booth, just sort of as like a random sit-in. I think Tomo texted me and was like, "Hey, if you're not doing anything in 15 minutes, like come up to the Boss booth thing. And so I came up there and plugged into, I guess it was Scott's amp. And we played, Tomo and I just kind of jammed together for a minute. So I hope that's the right answer. Scott, if you're listening and you're like, nope, well then I'm sorry, but I must have forgotten that one. But
well, let's see.
Yeah.
What else do we got in here? Well, this isn't a question, but it's oh boy. Sorry, buddy. I'm going to butcher your last name when I say this. Manuel Shalmastig. Sorry, buddy. I don't know. He just says, tell him I like his style very much. Sorry, that's not a question. But there you go.
Oh, well, hey, I'll take it. That's very kind. Yeah. Thank you, bud.
This is actually a good question. Okay. And probably more applicable and for everybody. Again, I don't know how to pronounce your last name either, Todd, but Todd Mihinick. How would he suggest a player train their right hand for funk rhythms?
Okay, that's a great question, actually. For me, it's all about listening first. I would, if funk is like not a language that you speak, I would listen to that music. Just don't even pick up a guitar. Just listen to it for a while. It could be James Brown or Stevie Wonder or Herbie Hancock or Prince or whoever, Sly Stone. There's so many great funk artists out there, George Clinton. And then once you've got that feel and that vibe and that spirit, for lack of a better word, in your ear, you could pick up the guitar. And then I would go find some James Brown records, find the easiest chord progression a lot of his stuff is just one chord for an extended amount of time. And single out learning those guitar parts. And you'll kind of start to know, like first it'll probably sound kind of sloppy and weird, but you just keep at it like you would do. I mean, funk rhythm is so much based on feel and being relaxed. It's not like, like when you're doing alternate picking or metal picking or something, like there's very specific thing. You hold the pick slanting and all this, with funk, it's just a feel. It's just a vibe, and I think the more you kind of dig into actually just learning those parts, your right hand will start to kind of teach itself. Like I never sat down and was like, I'm just going to focus on the right hand. I just pounded away at learning parts until it just came together.
Okay.
You can practice to a metronome. That's really good. But I think what I'm saying was like, listening to this stuff first, because you'll start to understand where the nuances are, where the feel is, where the ghost notes are. And then that way you can kind of focus on that coordination between right and left hand to get that pocket, those, I wish we had guitars, because this is way easier for me to just play for you than describe. A ghost note is like a note that's there, but you don't really hear it. You more feel it. And a lot of that is a combination between, the right hand attack and then the left hand muting chords or muting the parts, where like you play a chord and then you lift your left hand fingers off the strings for just a 16th note or an 8th note or whatever it is, while your right hand is also hitting just scratching the strings, right? And then you get this ghost note feel. But yeah, listen to that stuff and then just try and learn it. Learn it by ear first, and then then maybe go on and find a video or something like that. But it's really, really important to have it in your ear before you even start, right? So hopefully that makes sense.
It does make sense. And some of what you're describing,
okay, good.
It's like I was going to say, funk always to me sounds like there's a lot of textural sounds that are coming from the interplay between the right and the left. I think it's easy for it to be thought of as a right hand dominant genre, I guess, because of how it is. But it's really the interplay.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, I never really focused on my right hand. I think most of it was focused on my left hand with these ghost notes, like figuring out when to hold the chord, when to hold the note, and then when not to. Because that space that you get from the left hand muting is what gives a lot of those funk parts their sauce, for lack of a better word.
Gotcha.
So get my jam play course. there's a plug.
There you go.
Because then you can watch me do it, and I break it down for you with a guitar.
Yeah. Where can people find that? Just for kicks.
Jamplay.com, actually.
Easy.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Let's see if we get any more good ones coming in here.
Where are you looking? I wonder if I can look at this stuff too.
Well, you can if you join the Tone Mob Facebook group. I'll add you to it.
Okay.
If you want to do that.
Tone Mob. Oh, here you are. Wait, there's a group and a page.
The group.
Which one do I join?
Well, the group's the only one you can join.
Oh, I joined the group. Okay, I'm joining the. Oh, I got to answer.
You
these
don't
questions?
have to answer. I'll approve you.
These.
Just request. There you are. Okay.
I'm gonna just put smiley faces in.
I
each
just
box.
approved you. You're fine. Now, for everyone listening, I'm not just going to approve you. You do need to answer the question, so I know you're not a robot.
Hey.
But
all right, okay, no more robots. We know how that movie ends. Yeah. Terminator will destroy all.
Which is funny because somebody in there, Eric Signor, you'll be able to see this relatively shortly. It says, ask him if he's part robot / cyborg. So.
Yes, I have a chip in the left hemisphere of my brain.
I knew it.
That syncs to it's like a Bluetooth MIDI controller, so I can sync the click into my brain.
That makes all the sense in the world.
No, that's very kind. Thank you. I'm constantly actually trying to play behind the beat, which is hard. I always have a tendency to play like either right on the clicker or a little bit ahead. I just get excited, maybe, or maybe I just drink too much coffee before I actually play. I like the question where the guy was like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's what we need.
That's all Sean, right? He's he's one of our resident guys who will say things like that.
I see the coffee cup. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Sean. Hopefully you're going to be like, I guess I want to listen to that guy's music now. He sounds like kind of a jerk, but I don't know. Anyway,
well, we'll see if anything else pops up in there a little bit later, but we can dig into some gear stuff. So what's your current rig look like?
Well, it kind of depends.
I'm sure
it's constantly in flux. You know what I mean? I have two pedal boards that I generally will bring out depending on the situation, and they have sort of similar stuff. One's a little bit bigger than the other, but I guess without like telling you every single thing that's on these things. I suppose I could.
This is a podcast for gear nerds.
It is the tone. Okay, This is gear nerds. All right. Okay. Well, so the board that's closest to me now is my Pedal Train PT2, which I will use most of the time if I'm local or if I'm on a tour where I am able to put my gear in a van or a trailer or something like that, because it's just a little bit bigger and it has a flight case and that kind of thing. So on it right now, and this is the board I'll take to sessions too as well, because it's got a lot of sounds on it. There's a TC Electronics Sub and Up Octave, a Gaiatone Wah Rocker envelope filter, a J-Rocket Hooligan Fuzz, a J-Rocket Steampunk Boost / Buffer, a J-Rocket Melody Overdrive, which is my signature overdrive. I helped. Well, they did most of the designing. I just approved. I was like, well, can we make it do this? And they were like, yeah. Okay, now I need it to sound like this. Okay, yeah. You know, I'm not like one of those guys that was in there soldering.
I am the same way whenever I get to work on a project.
I just know the sounds in my head and how to hopefully explain them, and then I let the actual tech geniuses come up with the
exactly.
So anyway, the Melody Signature Drive. The next one is a Dude Overdrive from J-Rocket. I have an MXR EVH Phase 90. I love Phaser. It's just great. A Dunlop volume pedal. Line 6 M5, the old school one.
Oh yeah.
I had it modded by this guy Jack Vaughn, who just kind of cleans up the circuit and makes the interface a little bit more user friendly. But that thing sounds great, man. I use it for all kinds of stuff. There is a Walrus Monument tremolo, an MXR carbon copy delay, a TC Electronic Nova delay, and a TC Electronic Hall of Fame reverb. And it is powered by a True Tone CS12. So that's board number one. And then board number two is kind of my fly date board. It's smaller. I can fit it in a little laptop briefcase and put it on the plane with me. Actually, it's pretty cool. The laptop case, carry it in. It can carry the pedal board, a laptop, and like a pair of pants.
Nice.
So, and shirt. So I can actually like, if I have a gig where I got to fly in, play the gig and fly home, the next morning, I can actually just pack everything in this one thing, including, I take my guitar on the plane too. That board is a vegetable or meat cutting board from Target.
All right. I was really wondering where you were going with that. I was like, vegetable.
Yeah, well, that's where. Yeah, it's man, dude. Honestly, dude, that's like one of the best ways to build a pedal board, because those cutting boards come in all different sizes and they're super lightweight and they don't actually like break really. You got to try really hard to break one of those things in half. So anyway, so I have this cutting board. A friend of mine up at the Guitar Sanctuary, which is this really nice guitar shop in McKinney, Texas. His name is Brian O'Million. He wired it up for me, so it looks all clean and professional. That has a Keeley Monterey multi-effects pedal on it, which is like I don't know if you're familiar with those. Maybe you guys are. It's great. It does like chorus, vibrato, envelope filter, fuzz. There is a Pigtronics Octave fuzz, which is a cool sound. A J-Rocket Melody and a J-Rocket Dude. Those are kind of my go-to drives at the moment. MXR Phase 95. There's my phaser. A Dunlop volume pedal. So we're seeing a trend here, right? A couple things. And then I put this thing on it called the TC Electronic Plethora.
I'm not familiar with that.
Which is this new, it's this new multi-effects unit they put out that's based on their Tone Print series of pedals.
Oh.
And it's got like...
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, it's that thing with the 5 slots, and you can call up different pedals basically, and then the different tone prints for those pedals. And it's I'm liking the idea of it. I don't know if I am totally sold on the practical applications of it yet. It sounds really good, and the like I said, the concept is great. The one thing that is kind of messing with me is the ability to change sounds on the fly, like in real time, because it just sort of, I'm used to having knobs and just bending down and twisting a knob and getting on with it. The Plethora, you have to like go into a menu and select a thing and do this. And it's, by that time, the moment is sort of past. So I've used it in studio sessions, which is fine because I can sit there and get a sound and roll tape, So I don't know. I'm just sort of auditioning it, but we're gear guys. We can be honest about stuff. I love TC's products. I use them constantly. So this isn't to say that I don't like them. I just don't know if I'm totally sold on this particular thing at the moment.
I feel that,
but we'll see. Yeah.
I really liked that the Nova delay was on there. I don't have one of those, but I would like to get one.
They're great. Cool. They sound really good. Yeah. They sound really good. I love that there's the BPM monitor on there because it's great for studio work. And it does a lot of things, but I don't get like super bananas with a delay necessarily. Right. I have a couple delay pedals that will do that. And sometimes I'll swap those kind of in and out just depending on what I really need to get done. But yeah, that Nova delay just seems to keep finding its way on the board.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, they did a nice job with that thing. Yeah.
Let's talk about your overdrive a little bit. Like, what makes it special? What'd you do?
So what's unique about it is that it, instead of tone controls, it has a 6-band EQ on it.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I don't know the resistor value of each one. I can actually get that for you, but it's essentially like lows, mids, and highs. And what we did, the reasoning behind that was that I was finding myself doing a lot of backline amp gigs where, maybe the amp wasn't exactly what I was used to or what have you. And so I wanted to be able to really dial in the exact frequencies that I wanted to hear. And so they started with a pedal called the Majestic Overdrive. And kind of tweaked it to bring in some of the characteristics of some of the other pedals of theirs that I was using a lot, like this one called the Blue Note. And there's a little bit of dude DNA in there too, I think. But anyway, what they did is they just made something that's nice and big and open sounding, not a whole lot of compression feel to it. And it's it's like I say, it's like a medium gain level pedal. But the big thing about it is that you can just kind of sculpt in whatever frequency you like or take out whatever frequency you don't want. So it sounds great with all my guitars and all my amps. And then it combines well with other pedals. I really like to stack overdrives, you know? Mm-hmm. And so having that EQ on there can really help, like for a solo boost or something, or really like changing the tone of a pedal that comes after it or before it or whatever. So it's a nice kind of like bass level drive to start with. You could definitely like just leave it on all the time too if you're one of those people. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. Oh, here I found the graphic EQ levels. It's 100 hertz all the way to 3.2K.
Okay.
So 100, 200, 400, 800, 1.5K, and 3.2K. So there's a lot. And I think there's like 18 dB of booster cut in each slider. So you can really like do a lot. It's super flexible.
You just answered my next question before I got to it, was
boom.
That.
Yeah.
So there you go. Really cool.
Yeah.
So you were talking about
Sure,
the
dude.
amps might not be what you were looking for. What are you looking for? What kind of amps do you like, and what do you play when you have the choice?
Sure. I've been using Supro stuff a little while. They make a cool head and cabinet called the Statesman, which I use quite a bit and I record with as well. I have a couple PRS amps that I like. The Sun Zera is like a cool combo amp that I take around town a lot. I have a couple boutique things that just kind of stay here that I use for sessions, which one of them is called a Pure 64, which is like probably the coolest Fender style clean tone I've ever heard.
Nice.
It's really nice. Yeah, it's like he describes it as kind of like a deluxe, but it's not. I don't know. It's not, the high end is not brittle like a deluxe. The high end is just like perfect. And it's a head and a cab. So the cabinet's got a lot of bottom end in it, which I like in my tone. And then another boutique amp I have is a Naylor Dual 60,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like a Bassman on steroids. It's like a very fat, thick tone. And the overdrive channel on that one's like really, really cool. Kind of like Marshall-esque in a sense, but it's like a 6L6 based amp. So I don't know how he's doing it, but it sounds great. Been using this Princeton Reverb. It's a 66 that I've had for a little while that a good friend of mine gave to me. That's a fun one. But man, it's interesting. Like you asked the question about backline. I've played a lot of different stuff, and sometimes I'll play the whole gig, on a Fender Twin or something like that. Those are fine. I played some 2-Rock stuff the other day, which was great. Play some Mesa Boogie stuff every now and then. That's awesome. I don't know. Sometimes I kind of enjoy the challenge of like, here's something I've never used. Let me see if I can get my sound out of it.
Right.
So I think having that flexibility as a player is important. I mean, I don't get nervous if like, well, all we have is this AC-15. I was like, well, shit, let's rock and roll. But, turn it up. Let's go.
Yeah.
Put it on a chair so I can hear myself or whatever.
Have you ever?
And then I
just
took a sip of coffee. I was going to say, I use a Kemper a lot too for recording stuff.
You're anticipating all of my questions. I was going to say, have you dipped your toes in the modeling world yet? So there you go.
Yeah, I've been a Kemper guy for a while now. Kind of starting to get my sound out of it and kind of learning how you can tweak it. And I don't get like real deep into the whole, some guys, they do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. I don't really profile amps either. I just use, profiles that my friends give to me. But I'm one of those guys that I find an amp sound and just throw my pedals in front of it and just go for it. Seems to work just fine.
Yeah, I think the flexibility that we have between the multi-effects that are available, the crazy modeling amps, and all the really cool boutique tube stuff, now it's just like, man, we are so set up as guitar players.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a great time to be alive. Is that what they say? Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot out there, and it all has its place.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. If I'm, for example, if I'm playing a live gig, I need a big, loud, clean tube amp that I'm going to throw my pedals in front of, and then that'll get the job done. If I'm in a studio, depending on what we're doing, if it needs to be a real amp with some heat behind it, then great. Or if it's, something where I can use a Kemper and I'm constantly having to switch tones, then great. I think that probably the best thing for a modern player, if possible, is just to get used to maybe using as many of these things as possible. Because you never know what musical situation you might be in or what gear is available to you. So the more experience you could have, like for example, I don't even know how to turn on an Axe Effects. Like
me either.
I the switches on the back, but maybe not. So in that respect, I should probably get used to that, because I might end up in a situation where I'm, getting called for a studio session at the last minute and I only have my guitar, so if you can make yourself cool with learning new stuff, then the world is your oyster, so to speak.
We didn't even get into the guitars yet. All the other stuff we talked about, but we didn't talk about the guitars.
Yeah, sure.
What's your preferred go-to? Sure. If you, let's just say I said, I need you to come over right now and we're going to create a whole bunch of different tunes. What would you grab? Sure. You can bring one guitar.
Okay. I would probably bring my Don Grosh NOS Retro, sort of, you could call it a super strat in a sense, but doesn't have a Floyd Rose or anything. But it's a single coil humbucker guitar with electronics that enables me to select the neck and the humbucker.
Oh, nice.
Simultaneously to get like kind of a cool sort of faux Telecaster sound.
Cool.
I can get a lot done with that guitar specifically, but also just kind of that setup of electronics, that pickup layout. And in truth, most of the recorded music that I do can be done with a Strat. Doesn't have to be done with a Strat, but you can do a lot with that guitar. And I think having the humbucker and the bridge of a Strat just makes the rock and roll stuff a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I've never been a big fan of the single coil bridge sound in a Strat, or at least not when I do it. Other people sound good. It sounds thin when I play it.
It's weird how that works.
So I like having that humbucker back there. Yeah, well, it's all in, it's in your fingers, man. Some people just can do it. Other people need a humbucker like me. Mm-hmm. I much prefer like a single coil telly bridge sound, like that's a great sound. And I feel like I sound pretty good with that sound, but with a Strat, I don't know, there's just something missing. Maybe I should stop biting my fingernails or something. I don't know.
I feel the same though.
But
so it's not just you.
Yeah. Sure. But the Strat thing is kind of always been my thing. And I like having a tremolo bar that I can kind of wiggle around if need be. And there's this kind of a do-it-all sort of guitar. So I'd bring that one.
Cool. Perfect. Now on the opposite side, let's talk about the guitars that you have though. So
okay.
that would be the jack of all trades, but like, is there one particular one that's pulling you in right now more than the others?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, it's like having a favorite kid. But I only have one kid, so she's my favorite kid. But if I had two kids, I don't think I would have a favorite kid. Yeah, I mean, I have this Grosh Strat. I have another Strat that Don Grosh put a Grosh neck on. That's really nice sound. I have two of those Ibanez AZ guitars, which are pretty cool. They have kind of it's a little bit more focused of a sound as far as Strats are concerned, kind of more modern focused sound, which for some applications can be really nice. I have a couple PRS guitars that I really dig. In fact, well, you asked if I had one that was sort of calling to me. Well, recently I got this PRS 594 single cut.
Ooh.
Which is just insane. Yeah. I mean, it's like, everything I like about a Les Paul and nothing I don't. You know, like I like a little bit of spank in my sound, and so sometimes Les Pauls can be a little dark, you know, a little thick, which for certain things is great. Like I have a Les Paul that I dig, but this PRS kind of does that, but then has just this top end thing that I really dig. And so I've been finding myself grabbing that one for sessions and for different, you know, different things that I'm doing for people. And I've got a couple Telecasters. I finally, I don't know why it took me so long to start playing this guitar again, but I have a Nash Telecaster that's just great. Oh yeah, it's just got a cool vibe. It's got a humbucker in the neck, which is kind of unique, but really nice. I like guitars that kind of breathe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if it's something about the wood or the finish or the what. I don't know. You know, I don't make guitars, but you know, when you hit a note, you want to hear all the note. You want to hear all the dynamics. You want it to be loud when you dig in. You want it to be quiet when you don't dig in. You know, you just want it to really speak. And that Nash guitar really kind of does that. I'm digging it. It's cool. Hopefully all of my guitars, I try to get guitars that do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So how do you describe it? It's like talking about wine.
I know.
It's like, well, this is a cherry flavor. It's like, well, it's made of grapes. How the hell does this taste like cherry?
It's like,
so
yeah, it's difficult.
That's how you totally.
Describing sound that's why we always sound so stupid when we're doing it, because it's like,
I know.
It's like, it's kind of woody. Exactly. It's kind of, but not.
Or the one that everyone loves to crap on is when you describe an overdrive pedal as chewy. Have you ever heard it? You know, everybody's like, well, what the hell is it? Was it granola? Like what? You know,
but we kind of know what it means.
Like, what do you mean?
Sort of. Like,
yeah, it's like, yeah, it's that compression that you feel with a great drive sound.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get it. I know what they mean.
Yeah.
And you know, I drank a Zinfandel the other day that had a bit of strawberry to it, you know? Yeah. So there you go. I get it.
It's hard, but then it's funny because like somebody else will play the same thing and they're like, you know, they won't have the same experience. And so then they'll try to counter it, you know, with like, it's not chewy, it's open. And it's, you know, and it's like, oh man, like non-musicians and non-gearheads would just like, you guys are literally psychopaths. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
But that's what makes the whole thing great, is because, you know, it's like a secret society or something, you know, a social club.
Their own made up language
for tones.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man.
So we kind of talked about, you know, growing up, some of the stuff you were listening to, but like right now, who are some players or just bands that you're really digging right now?
Sure. Well, I'm fortunate in that I have a lot of friends that make really great music. And so I'm always checking out what my pals are doing. A friend of mine, Becca Stevens, just put out a record today that's really cool. She's an incredible singer-songwriter, and it's neat to see because she's got a couple of records out and they're all like super different. This one definitely has like a pop funk kind of bend to it. I also got to play on it, which is pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
But it's called Wonder Bloom, and it's really nice. I was just looking through my iTunes. He asked me what I was currently my buddy Justin Stanton, who's a keyboard player in Snarky Puppy, put out a solo record not too long ago that's really cool. So I'm always trying to keep abreast of what my friends are doing, because it's inspiring and, you know, intimidating at the same time. You know, it's like, oh crap, dang, he just did this, I gotta do this, you know. So that's kind of fun. But the last two records I bought ZZ Top's first album, and which is called ZZ Top's first album, which I thought was awesome. And I bought Pantera's Cowboys from Hell, which just kicks ass, you know. Of
course.
So I will definitely go back to the old stuff a lot, and because there's, you know, I don't know if there's one artist where I own every single record. I came pretty close with a few, but you know, it's kind of, it's really funny. It's like, even with some artists, it's like you might just have one record of theirs and it's so perfect that that's all you need. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what I've been kind of digging on lately. And I'm always, this probably sounds a little bit self-centered, but like I'm always trying to find stuff that I played on when it gets released, just so I can just critique myself.
No, I get it.
Be like, oh, dang, I should have, oh, okay. Oh, that sounds great. Okay, good. I'm glad I made that musical decision, you know? Ooh, they mix that kind of interesting. Oh, wow. Okay. So, thankfully, the last thing I did that just got released was my buddy Bob Reynolds put out a record, and I played on it, and which was pretty cool. So he's got a new project coming out. Bob Reynolds is the sax player from Snarky Puppy. So, like I said, yeah, I'm always listening to my friends' music. You know,
Very cool. So this is kind of a sidebar since we're talking about buying records.
Sure.
But I just saw, I mean, this is going to segue into a different question as well, but I just saw that Epitaph Records is foregoing all of their, I don't know if it's just limited to Bandcamp. I think it is, but it might be a little bit more than that. They're foregoing like all of their share for all of their artists purchases through there. I literally just saw that before we started recording. So if there's an artist you like on Epitaph, they're getting more money from Epitaph's basically giving up their share.
Bandcamp, yeah. So, Bandcamp is giving up their share
just for today, though.
So
I think.
yeah, it's just for today. It's bigger than just the labels. It's because Bandcamp carries a revenue share as well, which obviously they should. It's their service, but they're foregoing their revenue share. So if you've got favorite artists who, they could be on a label either way. The point is the artists are going to get a little bit more money today.
Yeah.
For their records, which of course is amazing.
Unfortunately,
this now that's kind of how everybody is surviving. Oh, this is on Monday for them.
This is coming out Monday, so they're gonna miss that, which is unfortunate. But we can post about it.
Okay, because Bandcamp is doing it. Oh, you're talking about the podcast is coming out. I see what you're saying. I'm sorry, totally misunderstood you. Well, cool. But Bandcamp is great anyway because they do. They take care of the artists and they offer high quality stuff. And,
that's true.
It's a little bit more independent than say, on iTunes or a Spotify. I'll use a bad word there. Maybe.
Well, this podcast,
not really.
This podcast is on Spotify.
Should watch my mouth.
So it's okay.
I know. It's fine. I get it.
They don't pay me anything. No. What's up with that? I got this podcast on Spotify.
Well, they should.
Spotify, they don't pay me anything. Why am I giving this for free?
No, they should.
Yeah, nobody pays for podcasts.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's okay. It's just two dudes talking. Why would we pay for that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Exactly.
But no, where I was going with the Epitaph thing is they say they're going to be giving up their share for the foreseeable future, is what the post said. So, there's a lot of people that have been on this podcast, and there's just a lot of artists on that label I like, coming from that world. So
nice.
I just thought it would be a nice plug for anybody who didn't know that. So anyway.
Perfect. Yeah, dude.
But that segues into, how do you like to listen to music? I mean, we all stream stuff all the time, but when I want to actually sit down and listen to something, I'm a vinyl guy. How about you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I got into the vinyl thing recently because I put out a record on vinyl, so I needed an excuse to listen to it, so I bought a turntable.
Of course.
But I'm not really much of a streaming guy, to be honest. I generally if I do stream something, I'll just go buy it. Mm-hmm. If I dig it.
Right.
So occasionally I will maybe check out a new thing or a tune or two on Spotify or whatever. But then if I'm like, this album's great, I'm just going to buy it. So I'll download stuff from iTunes or Bandcamp or I'm trying to think the last time I purchased a physical CD. I haven't been to a record store in a while. It was probably something from a show of somebody that I saw.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still have an old school iPod.
Oh,
dude, with, it's like one of those 60 gig paperweights
with the click, the wheel on it and all that stuff.
With the click wheel. Yeah. And it still works.
Nice.
So I throw all my files up on there, and I have a CD player here on my computer, so I'll use that. I think I have one in my car too. I'm old school to an extent, you know. I mean, not like crazy old school, but like I miss the days of like laying down on my bed with headphones and like reading liner notes. You know what I mean? Like that was cool. Being 15 and doing that, like that was really kind of a lost. It's been lost a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we can get back to that somehow, but who knows?
That's kind of why I got into the vinyl. I was obviously too young to be through, existing in the first phase of vinyl, but I like.
Right. Yeah, me too.
I like that first. I like that big physical thing. I like being able to pull out and read the liner notes in a much bigger format than it, because maybe I'm getting old. My eyesight's going bad. I don't know. I just need that. But no, I just really like having that big thing, and I like getting up and like putting the needle down on it. And like,
it's fun. Yeah, I didn't realize that I would be into it, but it's cool. It's a cool thing. It was really funny. My mom lent me some of her old vinyls, and one of them was this Weather Report record. And I put it on one night while I think I was washing dishes or something, and my wife was in the living room, and the needle started skipping, and it just kept playing this phrase over and over again, because the record's 30, 40 years old or something. And I was like, hey, is it skipping? And she goes, I mean, I guess, or that's just jazz. I thought that was just great. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Turns out it was skipping. It wasn't just jazz.
Skipping?
It was not supposed to sound like that. Or is it jazz?
That's a good. That'd be a good T-shirt.
I might do that. I'd have to pay her a royalty though.
Well,
so I'll have to work out the percentage with my wife.
Yeah, I feel like she'd be down. She'd probably be into it.
Yeah, I think so. It all goes into the same bank account.
Exactly.
At the end of the day. Yeah.
Well, right on, man. So we're nearing the close of the main part of the podcast before we hop over to the Patreon section. But I got a couple classic questions to wrap this up. But firstly,
all right.
You already plugged the Jam Play, but I'll let you plug anything else that you have to plug, or anything you want to get off your chest, or whatever. Now's your opportunity to do that.
Cool. Well, I mean, we're talking about getting music, and listening to music. So if you are into instrumental based, guitar oriented music, I've got 5 records out of that stuff. If you just go to marklettieri.com, there's links to everything. You can buy it, you can stream it, you can order a CD and put your coffee mug on it. For all I care, whatever you want to do. I just want people to hear it, I guess. So yeah, if you're into like down-tuned stuff, I have a record that's primarily baritone guitar based, which is pretty cool. Nice. I think, at least. But yeah, I put out an album last October called Things of That Nature, which is something I'm really proud of, and it's music that I tour a lot with my trio or my quartet. So that's cool. So yeah, I mean, if you just go to my website, you'll see all kinds of stuff, video stuff. There's all kinds of gear information on there. Like, I get a lot of questions, what pickups are in your garage? Well, it's right there on the website. You can check that out. And then I post tour dates on there. If you ever want to see me play either with my band or with Snarky Puppy or any other artists I work with, most of them, I if it's like an artist gig where I'm like a sideman freelance guy, I don't usually put that on my website. But if it's a band that I am sort of directly creatively involved in, then I'll put that on my website so you can come see it.
Gotcha.
And but yeah, that's about it.
All right, cool. And that link will be in there.
And there's lessons. Yeah, I mean, there's the Jam Play and Sound Slice and other stuff. So just go to the website.
Cool. All right, the website will be in the show notes for people, so it'd be easy to track down.
Awesome.
No problem. All right,
cool.
Here we go, getting into the last classic questions here. So this one is not so hard. I'm coming to find out. I used to think this was going to be a difficult question for people, but most people have been on it.
I'll try not to blow it.
All right. Okay. What's your favorite Boss pedal?
Oh, great question. Well, I'll 2 things and then I'll tell a joke for you.
Okay.
I think that's not really a joke, but it's just sort of funny. I think the one Boss pedal I keep coming back to is the CE2 Chorus.
Oh yeah.
It's like an old school, and I bought it from my guitar teacher that I was taking lessons with in high school, and he's probably bummed that he sold it to me because now they're like worth like $300 or something. But that thing just sounds really cool. It's just that old school Boss chorus sound.
Yeah, it sounds great.
I still have my very first DS1 that of two of my friends from high school bought for my graduation present. I was like, why did you guys do this? You know? So probably because they were so embarrassed to be seen with me with my previous overdrive pedal that they were just like, we should get him a Boss DS1 because this is just
It'll be a significant upgrade.
Significant upgrade. So I still have that. But yeah, that CE2 is really killer, man. But I have my friend's Metal Zone here at the house, and we have this running joke. It's called the Metal Zone Challenge.
Okay.
And we send each other clips of us playing music that you should not be using a Metal Zone for. Like jazz standards and things like that. But trying to get it to sound applicable to like that style.
Why is this not on the internet?
He'll send me a video. It probably will be at some point. He'll send me a video of him playing like bebop, but with like the Metal Zone.
Yes, I love that.
And it sounds about as good as you might think it would sound.
That's fantastic.
But that pedal gets a lot of crap. That pedal's actually pretty awesome. I definitely enjoyed rocking Metallica and Ozzy stuff on those things when I was younger.
If you dial them in, that's the thing.
I might do when we wrap.
Dial them in right.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't just scoop the mids all the time. I
do.
So
but that's
mid-range is okay, guys. Oh, you did. Right, for sure. Hey, do you?
Yeah,
bro.
I'm just a bedroom nerd by myself. I don't need mids. I just get rid of them.
Yeah, right on, right on.
Oh boy. All right, here we go. Here's the last question of the podcast. This is the one that gets people in trouble. So we'll see how this goes. What kind of pizza do you like?
Ooh. I'm kind of simple. Sauce, cheese, and maybe like a meat.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be like crazy. Like I don't, like all the different things that people put on pizza now. I'm like, maybe a meat and maybe like one or two green things. Like there's a place here in town that it's just like super thin crust, cheese, a little bit of olive oil, like some Italian sausage and some arugula. And that's just great.
That sounds good.
Like it's simple, like that's how I like my pizza. No pineapples. Get the hell out
thank
of here.
you. All right. All right. Yes.
That's cool if you're 7. But if you're an adult, do not put pineapples on your freaking pizza.
Yeah, I'm coming to find out, because that question is it's very, it's a fun one. But like the according to like the Facebook group and probably the amount of times I've asked that question, I feel like it's about 50-50. Mm-hmm. It really is. I don't know if that's
funny.
Accurate or not.
I don't really realize I don't know when it became like cool to hate it, but like I kind of get it.
No, I know. That's the thing.
I think it's funny that we're all just like, oh yeah, pineapple sucks, but it's like, yeah, it is kind of a weird thing that like it's like I had a friend that used to put ranch dressing on her pizza all the time, and I was just like, I don't get that. Like I don't get it. But I come from Italian heritage, so like a part of me wants to thumb my nose up at non-traditional pizza flavors, but it's all in good fun. I don't care. You can put sand on your pizza if you like it. I don't care.
There's a video I'm gonna have to send you if I gotta track it down. It's a guy going around in Italy giving Italians they order a pizza, and this guy shows up and it's a Hawaiian pizza, and they just freak out. It's really funny. They're not impressed with his pizza that they brought. It's like, no, they like swat it out of his hand. It's great.
Amazing.
But yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. We'll hop on over to
my pleasure.
Patreon.
Yeah, it was fun talking with you, man. All right,
everybody. For Mark, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones.
That's cool if you're 7.
All right, we did it. That was a fun one. That was a really fun chat with Mark. And guess what? There's more. So if you head over to tonemob.com/Patreon, we talked for another half hour. So another half hour of content right to your ears. We got into some pretty fun stuff, some crazy stories, some things that he experienced, and it was a lot of fun. And that helps support the show and literally helps keep the lights on around here. It's actually quite literally pays my electric bill. That's what it's doing right now. The Patreon folks are paying my electric bill, and yeah, without electricity, this thing doesn't work very well. So their support means the world, and if you could possibly be one of them, that would be awesome. You go to patreon.com/tonemob and you will find it. And it's just $5 a month to get those extra episodes. So big thanks to all the Patreon subscribers. Big thanks to you for listening. And if you could share this with a friend. If you don't have the scratch to be a patron, I totally get it. But sharing this with a friend is very, very important. It helps grow the show, and that is what helps everything. We need those sweet, sweet downloads. So if we could get more downloads, that would be amazing. So thank you so much for all the support over the years. We're going to try to keep this thing going through these crazy times. I mean, what's better than podcasts to help pass these weird days that we have? I don't know. Crazy stuff. But with your help, we can keep this thing going. So thank you so much for listening to this point, and I will talk to you all next week. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.